Well, here we are back here. Let me get back over to Twitter. Let's bring up our co-host. Welcome, everyone. Last ever Markcast episode, UFL Championship reactions. John just discovered like 5. I'm like, John, that was the name of the episode. What do you mean? John's like, wait, this is the end? Anyway, John, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. I don't believe it, but I'm doing well. It was a interesting championship game. Great way to wrap it up. I wish more people had tuned in to watch it.
We'll do all that today. Yeah. So we have Mike Mitchell's TV ratings, we have attendance stuff, we have the championship reactions, and then we'll say goodbye. I already put out, we're not doing the CFL, and then I feels like it's time. It's 20% down UFL championship ratings year over year. We'll get to it later. We'll get to all of that. Welcome, everyone. And I will note, we might have a, what did I call it? A pressure washer coming to clean the deck here.
What a way to go out.
Yeah, back inside. Couldn't even be on the deck. So really just the perfect way to kind of end all of this today. But anyway, welcome. Make sure like and subscribe to John's channel. I might pop up back up on there every once in a while, or Pat's channel. I know Anthony Miller is working on CFL stuff as well. So, we'll still, propagate everything, and I'll still be around, but I wanted to have this, I just didn't want there to be this lingering question forever of when am I coming back? So John, it was an exciting weekend, I guess. Football, we're here Tuesday. We'll do all that, and then we'll do kind of the year-end stuff, but I was hosting my mother's 70th birthday party. Many reasons why this is podcast, but I watched the game on Monday. I texted you, was it, it was a little bit of a slog in the rewatch just because we kind of know the outcome. What was your reactions watching the game live? Because you had a different opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining. I mean, if you kind of look at the final score and you're, and maybe if you kind of just rewatch some of the highlights or just maybe a cut down. I know UFL is really good about putting up longer form highlights. I thought it was completely entertaining. Now, about 5 minutes left, I was starting to nod off a little bit, but I thought it was, I really, really thought it was an entertaining game, and it was a great way for the UFL to kind of wrap up the season. Those were two incredible quarterbacks. Jordan Ta'amu had the game of his absolute life. And then Bryce Perkins, it kind of got overshadowed because every time, I think for the first 10 possessions, DC scored. So, but what Bryce Perkins did, in that game also might have gotten overlooked, but he had an incredible game too. So, they even said after the game, his teammates and Shannon Harris, the coach, felt like Jordan Ta'amu should have been the offensive player of the year and the MVP, but he did win the MVP of the championship. So that did go a long way.
It was just bizarre to me that the Panthers just seemingly kind of forgot to play defense, or just like you said, it was every time, Ta'amu was throwing it down. What did you, it just kind of not the Michigan team maybe that we were used to, or what was your thoughts on just kind of that? It really felt like they kind of fell apart here. I know they got some points at the end, but certainly not a good showing.
Well, I think they got punched in the mouth, and it's, the old Mike Tyson quote about everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. But that's what Jordan Ta'amu and that offense did. I think Fred Keiss had an absolutely incredible game plan for the Michigan Panthers, because it was kind of, not to that extent, but it was kind of the opposite last time these two played. And so there were a couple of things I thought that DC wanted to prove. And when they just got hot, and they never cooled off. And you don't see that a lot in football. A lot of times you'll see, a team come out pretty strong and they're going to hit a slog now and then. DC never felt like they did, and and Michigan just could not counterpunch with them Sunday night.
In terms of the Ta'amu of it, I know, off season, a long time, and we talked through Prez and all that. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Ta'amu is kind of a little bit long in the tooth as well here, similarly to the Markcast. Do you feel like I just what is left for him here? He was right. The game MVP won.
Right.
I don't know what else is left for Ta'amu at this point.
I don't know. But I mean, when you have a game like that, it would be hard for me to think that he's just going to stop playing. There's a lot. It felt like that there is still a lot left in that tank. That, that wasn't, some slappy team they were playing. They were playing a really, really good Michigan team in the championship game of the UFL. I don't know that he gets, I would think he would get another look in the NFL, but you're right. Age might play a factor in that, but we're, assuming that, things line up for the UFL in 2026. I would just be shocked if he didn't get an NFL look and he didn't catch on, whether it's on an active roster or a practice squad, that he would just quit, because it just feels like that he's got a lot left, to me, at least on this level.
Yeah, he's 27. I mean, that's interesting. I just, and you kind of go through the UFL fan zone said 27. I was like, well, of course, 27 on that. I still getting wrong here last day, but like it feels like it feels like he's I don't know, just have kind of gone through it. Andrew here says, master class and play calling by guys. It wasn't Cassius or whatever. What was the Fred Cassius or whatever the Brandon had on the? I couldn't get that. What do you, this championship game, right? Lopsided by all accounts. Score looks a little whatever. I was there last year, blowout, right? We all remember. I mean,
that wasn't a good game.
Yeah, and I mean, really, I'm trying to remember, like, what was it? The Star Stallions, like that was a good one back, like the Cookies leg break.
Yeah,
there. Like, I'm just trying to think of like what is it about these championship games that, and obviously, there's only been a couple, but feels like we have a little bit more lopsided here. Like, were these the best two teams, and why do you think that there was such lopsided in this year in the?
Well, I mean, that happens in the Super Bowl. I mean, we've seen it more often than not that the Super Bowl ends up being a complete blowout. So, no, I mean, I think there are a lot of factors in there. It's like, who's the better play caller, who gets hot, stays hot, who's got the right game plan. But also, this might have been for a lot of these players the first time on a stage like this, like in a championship game. Now, granted, it wasn't the Super Bowl. It certainly wasn't a Super Bowl crowd there or a Super Bowl TV audience, but that none of that really matters. It's like a lot of people who are asking these NBA players about, what do you think about like the TV ratings being down? And, I think it was like Halliburton. There were some other players saying, well, we're playing in the finals. We don't care about TV ratings because this is their sport. Yeah. So to me, I just think that this might have been, I'm not saying that Bryce Perkins or, some that didn't live up to it, but, you play a little differently when you're in a championship game. Sometimes that's better and sometimes that's worse.
They're talking here, Commanders backup, I assume, for talent. Well, they got Mariota, right? We got them one more. Because Commanders, my team, we got Mariota. Guys love Marcus right now, and I'm glad that we got him back on there, but he's not going to be a backup forever. I think that would be cool. Do we want to do ratings and kind of move that into this? Do you want any more general thoughts about the game before we get into that?
I thought like if a lot of people might have just have seen the score, they would have thought, well, that wasn't very interesting, or boy, there were a lot of points scored, but it wasn't a close game. I just really thought it was entertaining to me from beginning to end. I didn't have a dog in the fight, even though I did. I had a Panther shirt ready to go too, but I thought it was a really interesting game, and it showed like how high level that a lot of these players can play and have played this season.
I think it was Sunday, and I finally texted you because, again, we had people over on Saturday kind of right during the game. I thought, well, like, so much for that Tom Brady halftime announcement and expansion and new markets. And I did not see the halftime show. I was not included in the recaps that I watched. I heard it did not feel very high budget was the vibes that I got. I saw pictures from the stadium. Like, do we see any of that? Or I guess, how is your thoughts on the overall TV presentation, Joe Tessitore style here?
Oh, I mean, like those guys did a great job. But yeah, the halftime show probably would have been better off. It looked like somebody was televising a free concert at the state fair. I mean, it was, three guys. Yeah, they were good. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from them. It looked low budget and it looked amateurish. And again, we've talked about how this league is a TV product, and they have got to embrace some of this with optics. If you're putting on a TV show, you got to make it look good. And that it didn't look good. There was no special lighting or anything. It was just those guys out there playing. Again, I thought they were good. They got mixed reviews from a lot of people, but they could have found something maybe a little better, some better content to put on at halftime. Seemed like that would have been a great time to tell the story of some of these players, and you put together some of those packages that, that have those storytelling, or, bring out Tom Brady and Fred Smith and everybody that they're going to buy these teams. But none of that happened. We got the black moods. That's what we got.
Yeah, well, more like the bad moods here coming out of the game. Well, no, but I mean, I agree with you in terms of either, tell the story. And again, like I didn't watch the whole package day of there, and my internet, I don't know why it keeps. I'm like, the one time I'm inside here, so hopefully it's fine. I'm just getting error messages, but like spotlight some of that, or pregame, tell kind of the story of the season. Like, not one person in the world except for the Black Moods, parents or whatever, are watching that. So I don't think they're paying for that, right? Like, I don't think the Black Moods are like, hey, we got 20 grand, we'll pay. So like, you're not gaining anything from it. So I did see the comments, like, at least in the CFL this last year, we were there in BC, the Jonas Brothers, and like, but and I was at the time like, well, this is the CFL. This is going to look, and I mean, it looked like $1 million. It looked so good. Like, even like you said with the UFL, dim the lights, bring some fans to stand in front of them. Do we have it? Like, do we have a stage? Like, can we just a little bit of stuff to make it feel like it's more? I mean, it's brutal I don't make any fun. Like, what are you supposed to do if you're those guys? Like, I saw the photo, like he's standing on a guitar case or something to be 3 feet up. He's got a little Chris Daughtry kind of short thing going on, but I just, but this whole, like, it killed me that, we're the last episode, like, this whole halftime and expansion and everything. And then, but like, hey, we got all our views off it, so I guess it's fine.
Well, and there was also the talk, the UFL's making this big announcement. Be sure to stay tuned, earlier in the season when they were in St. Louis. And all of us knew what it was, but there were a few of us who were just saying, maybe this is it. This is when they're going to announce that but it was just Danny Garcia announcing that the UFL Championship was going to be played in St. Louis, that we all knew about that. So, but yeah, I just, again, it's optics, and you had 14,000 people there, or 14,000 tickets sold. It just, maybe it's good that the ratings were low, that a lot of people didn't see that, because I don't know that they would return if that's what they thought the championship game should have looked like.
Well, let's talk through that. And then, I don't know, deep dive here at the game Tuesday, going and all that. But I agree. And it was just really curious to me, because I knew the outcome. But like you said, well, no, it was, the game itself was entertaining, because it felt like every time DC got the ball, they scored. But it's just,
it was like arena football there for a while.
It was certainly better than last year with the shutout. 100%. So I would absolutely, because I came down and sat with Andy and them at halftime last year. I mean, it was brutal, because I was up in the stands. I'm like, in the press box. I'm like, what is the point of sitting up here? But let's get, so Mike posted this today, and then Abdul's got a chart here. Of course, we have our charts and our attendance, but 983,000 viewers for the championship game. It peaked at 1.2 from 8 to 8:15. That means it peaked in the first 15 minutes. Greg Parks had tweeted out that last weekend, a repeat of the Connors, and I can pull up the tweet, but it had a million viewers for a similar time slot. So just to give kind of a retrospect for that, we saw the Gordon Ramsay Friday night stuff before. I think Mike has on here, it's a 20%, or Abdul 20%. I said yuck. I didn't think it was very good, but down 19% overall. But the attendance here was 1.59, so 1.6 to 983 year over year. That was my reaction. What was your reaction to this, John? Because this was not good.
No, it wasn't good. And I went back and like looked at some numbers. So the 2022 USFL Championship, that was on Fox. That was on July 3rd. So it was kind of like the July 4th weekend, got 1.5 million viewers. And then the next year, it got 1.1 million. XFL Championship in 2023, 1.4. And then we're just talking about how you went from 1.5 to 983,000. And that's just, and then you also look at over the season, it had an average of 645,000 viewers, and that was down from 812 from the year before. So something has to change here. And again, we heard from Russ Brandon and Danny Garcia and Daryl Johnston Friday before the game that everything is on the table and they're taking a look at some things. They said, well, we're not worried about the ratings. I think Russ Brandon said, there are a lot of leagues that would give their eye teeth to have the viewers that they had, and that might be true for some, but that's just not sustainable. I mean, I don't have any question that, I shouldn't say this, I've seen a lot of spring leagues just disappear overnight. I don't think that's going to happen with the UFL. So I think we've got a 2026, but you can't have numbers like this and have a 2027.
It's well, and that's like the thing. And so I had tweeted just again in the response to the Jerry Cardinal that Mark Perry had wrote up, the ratings aren't down, or whatever he said.
Yeah,
And we
right.
had talked, and at least Daryl Johnston was a little bit more, he feels a little bit more honest about it. But my point is, we talk all the time TV and attendance, and they go, attendance doesn't matter, who cares? And we'll talk the attendance here. So then you go look at the ratings and you go, you're half what you did 60% of what you did last year, 55% of that. Like, so what does matter then? Like, that's what I just don't like. If the attendance doesn't matter, but then the ratings are down 50, I mean, what is the math on that? 1.6 to 983. I mean, that's what is it, 40% drop?
Yeah. And, it also, I think, speaks to, we've talked about this before, I think it also speaks to interest in the markets overall. When you start to see attendance drop, and then you start to see, and there are big, large, some, mid-sized to larger markets that are these home teams. And I don't, I'm sure Mike Mitchell can probably break it down, he's got, by market through Nielsen ratings.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, you start to worry that interest has waned, and, and then when you see numbers like that, you start to have those thoughts again, like interest might be waning in this overall, not just from the casuals who might not have caught on, but maybe some people who watched it last year and just kind of gave up on it this year.
Well, and that's the problem is now we're getting, and I have a comment from Scott here, and he's just asking about, the Stallions and all that. Do we come back? Do we move? It's so, now that we've done the championship game, that was when you were going to make the announcement. That's, so I don't know, so spoiler, that announcement isn't coming, right? So that's not coming. And I don't know how you drum interest in year 3 now of this UFL. And I'm not saying that, expansion is the answer, but obviously that's the break glass. We need to, I just don't know a natural way to grow interest in this league now going into year 3, if you're going to have all 8 markets back. Cause like we said, half these markets aren't ones that I would have ever picked anyway to put that in there.
Yeah. And, from the sounds of what they were, at least saying publicly, that the trio that did the news conference, it sounded like they were going to take a pretty conservative approach, but you're right. I wonder if you can have a too conservative approach. Like if you don't signal some kind of growth, and Reed, you said this, I think even after last season, that to signal some growth, you need to have maybe a couple of new teams, and it didn't, and never came to fruition. And, Russ Brandon said they did put out, the RFPs, and said that they've had some conversations. I'm just surprised we haven't heard anything, that some kind of news hasn't leaked out, or if it has, I haven't seen it. So that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I just, I don't know if relocation is going to be the answer, although I've said before, like the Memphis situation doesn't seem sustainable. And, Birmingham's still getting, when they need some help with scheduling. So they can't use that as an excuse next year, number one, but you can't have those Sunday noon games down there. You just can't do that. So that, I think these are things that it's going to, they'll use this as a learning process. Now let's see if they act on that and see really what comes to fruition in the off season now and in 2026.
Well, yeah, we saw back, it was at the USFL, that season 2, and then we talked about, the hub and kind of adding the Memphis thing. Like, I just, like you said, it's kind of the break glass, whatever. I saw what are they now? UFL News. It was the USFL. I mean, everyone hates me, but it was like the USFL News account, and then it was UFL News, but they were posting, we had like the outlet or Oklahoma, whatever, and they're, another trademark, right? Like another trademark was filed, and of course, and everyone runs and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is like not how you league build, of like, well, we were able to get this old trademark, or like, well, this one, we bought this one from Brian Wood, so we should put a team. Like, that's just not this is all backwards, just how how you would ever go about doing any of this, or even like putting the request out like, well, if you'd like to come to our cities, like, we're open to it. Like, I don't know. I watched 14,000 people go into St. Louis. Like, why would I for the championship game? Like, why would I want that? And we'll do ratings in a second, but I just, to me, like as I said before, you kind of lose all that momentum. I have one more comment about the trio here, but go for it, and then I'll make that.
No, you're right, and you've brought up this point before, and we've talked about it. If you want to sell these franchises or keep them in the market, what's your product? Now, we saw some absolutely great gameplay on the field, especially after week 3. It seemed like that was when offenses were catching up to defenses. Everything was going great, play wise. It wasn't going great attendance wise. So you can have, and I've used this before, talking to people. It's like you can have the best food, and have the best restaurant, but if nobody's coming in to sample it, you're not going to make any sales and you don't stay in business. So the gameplay has been good. It's just a matter of they've got to figure out a way, and Daryl Johnston has said as much in places like Birmingham and places like Memphis. What is the disconnect here? Now, I know Memphis struggled, there's no question, and that, a lot of people aren't going to show up to watch a bad team. But there are a lot of things that they can fix. Ticket prices is one. They keep saying it's affordable, but ticket prices went up in a lot of places. They started doing specials later on, but that's also what restaurants do before they go out of business. So you start doing 2-for-1 specials, that they're in trouble. So there are some things that they've got to look at. I think the product is good, but there's got a way to make it better and make it connect, not just to the communities, but also, to the casual fans as well.
Just a comment I wanted to have was about the trio, just kind of the media day in general. Yeah. And if you want to share any thoughts or not, but if you're going to be a league moving forward, I was getting the emails and the Zoom links didn't work, and then we needed to do, and the audio wasn't working, and you were trying to send me links so I could watch. Like, it's not a professional way to handle that. So I don't know if anyone from UFL makes it this far into this final episode, but like, this is not a professional way to run your media day. So you need to have links that work and microphones and cameras that work, and people can, like, I think we saw more from Maddie and I think Stefan and them were doing cell phone videos than I saw of the league posting any of that stuff. And it just was garbage anyway. So it's always just kind of like the least amount of effort. It's the same with the halftime show. It's the same with the media day. It's the same with all this stuff. It's like, well, we kind of tried to do it, so now we can just move on to something else.
Yeah, I would have liked, I know a guy who's like really good at video and has cameras and like knows how to live stream. I bet I can. I'll get in touch with him and see if he can get in touch with the UFL next time. But yeah, I mean, again, it looked kind of amateurish. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the people out there they're not going to see that anyway. But I'll also say, on the converse of that, if you are a local station, a local TV station, or anything, you're not going to use somebody's cell phone string. You can't use it on television. I mean, I used it in the video, my last video, and you can see it's just, I tried to fix it. I spent 30 plus minutes trying to fix their audio so you could actually hear it. You can't see it. It looks terrible, but you can at least hear the audio, what they're trying to say. So, but you're right. It's just they need to step up in some professionalism. Again, I'm going to lean on the side of optimism that, okay, here's something that they've learned. This is what they need to fix for next year.
I am going to have to talk to this deck washing guy super quick. Why don't you, I'm going to flip over to the attendance super quick. Why don't you share? Because we got to have Abdul's thoughts here, or his chart. So we'll do that. But give your thoughts on this. I'm going to drop out for 30 seconds and I'll be right back.
Sure. Yeah. So we'll take a look there with the attendance at 14,559. And that is, that's tough for a championship to me. Number one is because it shows that, people weren't interested. And we thought, like, okay, what if we have it in St. Louis, where we think that everything, where it's a football crazy town and there's going to be a lot of people there. But it didn't happen. And, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and it's like, well, if it's not their team, then why should they care? And I said, that's your first problem right there. That's your problem, because it's just showing that there's not a lot of interest, even for people who would come to that game, even in St. Louis, and they were given tickets and everything else. So I don't know what's going on with that, and I just think that that's another indicator of they've got to work this out. Also, Stephen Johnson, I see you here. I gave you a shout out. It's not on I think it's not on the last video, but the one before. So check it out.
That's
and
good.
thank you for joining my channel. I appreciate
it. Everyone appreciate it. Like everyone to the what? Oh, it was funny today. I saw one of my Washington Commanders reporters was something, and they were like, you need to get this right. Like, you get paid millions of dollars to talk about sports. And I was like, he's a beat reporter for the Commanders that has very good, but he's not making millions of dollars talking about this stuff. Just the one comment I had on this, and just the 14,000 whatever, just today they open, and this is apples to apples, or not apples to apples, but they just opened the Ireland UK tickets for the NFL game. There are 600,000 people just in the queue online to buy tickets. And so we bought our tickets for the Madrid game. We bought them through the league, early through their hospitality department or whatever the heck you want to call it. But I'm like, gosh, so people do travel to games that they're yeah, it does. And I understand that the UFL is not the NFL, and I understand all of that. Right. But the point is, you need to make it be something that people are worthwhile to travel to. And if any year, if I wasn't going to travel to St. Louis last year for the Birmingham, maybe I had gone to the other Birmingham championship games. Well, shoot, I'm a Defenders fan. I can go now, or I'm a Panthers. at least there's that thing on that. But I'm just people will want to do anything if you give them the reason to do it. So it kills me this well, no one who would travel to the a lot of people travel to games.
Yeah, and and somebody made a good point here. Maybe St. Louis fans did do their part, but you can't ask them to fill up the stadium when the Battlehawks aren't there. But I'll still say 14,000 for a championship game. That's not good. I mean, that was, in fact, I think the last St. Louis game, people said that was that might have been one of the lowest attended games, and that was a playoff game. So yeah, there were some. I mean, there's Christopher. He traveled from DC, so there were some.
Yeah, this was, excuse me. So now you can hear the pressure rush. It really sees. Leafs were all squared away here. Last year they had Tom Brady do his first ever game announcement. That is a good point. What was the Brady bump last year for the USFL? But hey, there was more people watching Tom Brady last year than watching the Bad Moods this year play in St. Louis at halftime. So I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what ABC does. I mean, do they bring Stephen A. Smith out there? What do they do to drum up interest? And I don't know. I was just really shocked. You sent that to me earlier today, Mike's tweet. And by the way, I almost joined Twitter this weekend, but then I saw some cesspool stuff that I was not interested in. But when I saw that, I was shocked. I was I couldn't believe that on a Saturday night, it's a championship game on ABC, which has had really good ratings for their UFL games, that they couldn't even top 1 million. That's tough to understand.
Let's look here through just real quick, Abdul. And if you're not following Abdul on all this, he kind of takes Mike Mitchell's numbers throughout the course of the season and breaks it down. I share this out, but you'll see down 21.72% year over year. ABC down. I mean, so everything. ABC down 10%, Fox down 30%, ESPN down 38%. ESPN2 wasn't the FS1 window because I think there was only the one. Yeah, it was only one game each and whatever. Right. But Fox really, taking kind of the biggest dip here. The Friday games go into that, right? Because you figure if you're getting 700 the Friday, and those were generally averaging more like 850 to 9, right, during the course of the season last year. Anything stand out from this? I just appreciate Abdul kind of doing this. Obviously, everything down, but anything stand out?
Yeah, Abdul might make me join Twitter because he has some good content here. I think what he posts there is overall, like we were saying, it's just showing that there's a drop in interest, and I don't know why. That's what I would like to know why. Now, I do understand that there are a lot of us out there who are going to watch no matter what. So we'll see. But that, yeah, when I saw those numbers, it was very surprising to me, and I don't understand like why that it just overall, and then for it to culminate with ABC having the issue at like in the championship game. It's just, I don't know. I want to dive into it and read a lot more on it because I know we just got these numbers today. So there's probably a bigger story that to be told. I just don't know what it is yet.
Well, at least just a couple of my takeaways here is, we got the big jump last year going in when they, because they had said we're going to merge the leagues. We want to give the best TV. And you tell me if this is unbearable, the pressure washing. They said they wanted to prioritize and give the TV windows, and that's why we had to merge everything. So you saw 40 versus 41 this year, and that you have a lot of those Fox Friday ones taking the part of that. So to me, the biggest question mark will be is if they keep this Fox Friday night experiment going on into year two, because that's where Fox saw the biggest drop in my opinion. But you do still have those 40 plus, game windows, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just felt, we've talked about it before. I thought Fox could have dressed it up. I thought Fox could have made it a thing. Instead, we got, Kurt Menefee, messing up players' names and team names. And it was just like any other thing. It just felt like it was low effort to me. And then you had ABC and ESPN on the converse of that, who put in a lot. Now, I know some people didn't like all the betting stuff, but those games felt much bigger to me than the Fox Friday night game, which should be the game that you would think like that's the spotlight game. And that's what we thought it was going to be. And it just really, it never came to that. And yeah, I agree. And I agree with ProCatch here, who says that in the chat that there should have been some kind of pregame thing. And that's what I thought. Like, even if you're already going to have a 3-hour broadcast, why don't you spend 5 to 10 minutes, telling a little bit of a story, doing a pregame, making it a thing, dress it up, and then you've got the game, because the gameplay was good, the product's good. You got to get people to watch.
This is, I guess, and this will kind of dictate the conversation here to kind of round out all this is, so where do you go from here, right? And Fox wants to be in this market because they want to own, the programming, right? Have cheap, repeatable programming that they have that they own. And so I get that. But then when you're going to have it and not put in the effort, and then you see stuff like Gordon Ramsay or ABC with the Connors getting, I guess that my question is, where does that leave Fox? And obviously we don't know. I saw the comment earlier, Fox decides if they go in 26 and kind of, basically they kind of dictate all this. I just don't know where you go from here, or what. I don't know what marketing strategy you come up with here in the dark room to kind of figure out what your game plan is for next year, besides really overhauling and spending a lot of time and money to get the messaging out. And I just don't see that.
Yeah. But I don't even know that it would even be that expensive. It's like, you've got producers for these games. You've got people who know how to put together, NFL broadcasts. I'm not saying that there was like a bunch of NFL personnel that were doing these Fox broadcasts. I mean, to me, they were mostly, as we used to say in the TV business, they were clean broadcasts. You didn't see like a ton of technical mistakes. It wasn't that kind of thing. Although that first season, or that first game, was a little bit shaky, but yeah, I don't even know that it's that expensive. You just change the format a little bit, and that's free. But you got to get some talented producers who probably, I would think a lot of them wanted to do a lot more, but maybe it's just not. They just said, let's just put this on and get it over with. And when you have low effort things like that, or what at least appeared to be low effort, it's just not going to catch on. It would be like anyone flipping around and, watching, they flip around to ESPN on Sunday afternoon and they're showing axe throwing. Well, you might watch it for a few minutes, but you're not going to watch the whole thing. I mean, there was darts on there one day and I was like, okay, this is interesting for about 10 minutes. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to move on.
Well, I think, and Rick's told me, it's like, you need to mute your mic when you're not talking. So let me know if anyone, but like, I don't know who is. Someone has to advocate for this, right? Like someone at Fox or at ESPN, and I don't know who that is anymore. And I think that the fact that we, as you said, you flipped around, saw darts or saw whatever the peak was, saw X amount during the first 15 minutes of the thing, and then decided that was enough of it and moved on, right? Like it peaked, and here, let me pull it up again. It peaked.
Right.
So I mean, they're doing that, and they lost 300,000 that way. I don't know, if we're gone, if who's gone, like, I just don't know who advocates or who, you need like a Sam Schwartzstein or someone like in this regime of this kind of maybe you feel like is advocating for the fans and more. I don't know. Like it feels like we're very disconnected from this now. And I just don't know where the advocation is going to come from.
Yeah, that's a good question. And if I guess also if they do it like they've done, next year, is the championship game going to be on Fox? So I don't know, but yeah, there needs to be, it feels like to me, now we're outsiders. We don't know what, as you said, what goes on in the dark room. And we don't know what these meetings are like. They're supposed to have leadership meetings this week. They're supposed to be more throughout the summer, but you feel like they need to bring in someone who has some TV knowledge. It's not just football knowledge. They have the football knowledge, people. They need some people who have some TV knowledge who can say, listen, I watched all your broadcasts and here's what I think you can do better, and get that. But who's the person at Fox to do this? Eric Shanks he's the main guy in Fox Sports. He's the guy who wanted to restart the USFL, and that was his pet project. And it didn't cost, I mean, for what it cost Fox, again, it was a rounding error. It's pocket change for them. So it's not a big expense. And but you have investors involved in this also, in this now. With the USFL, it was only Fox. Then with the XFL, you had, The Rock and Danny, and you had the Redbird Capital. Now you've got, those two entities together. And then somehow I guess ESPN is doing some things, but I don't know how financially invested they are in it. So I don't know. I see someone mentioned there Oliver Luck.
Mm-hmm.
You could pick a lot worse people than Oliver Luck. There you go. Absolutely.
Best interview we ever had, one of them last year when they had talking, and and like I said, that was kind of, I was like, I feel like I'm kind of done with a lot. Like I've climbed the mountain of, I don't know, like even the CFL now, they have a new commissioner, and I'm like, God, I got to go through the ranks again to work my way. Like I've done all this, but no, I do agree with Max here because you said bring in the TV people. But you need, you need to get, and we've seen the comments here, talk to the Savannah Bananas people, or talk to the, the Harlem Globetrotter people, or talk to people like, how can you need to sell it more just as entertainment than as football. Like you almost need to have it more as just that product.
Well, and that's, something we've talked about too. You've been to games. I've been to games. It's you go there to watch football. That's fine. But if you're going there for some kind of, game experience, which is what you need to have, you don't get that in a lot of places. Now, I didn't go to all 8 venues, so I don't know. I can, I've been to St. Louis, and they had some stuff outside. Was at Memphis, and, they tried, but they had a very small crowd. But it's not a, they had a good tailgating section out there, but there's not this, we're going to go and have all like minor league baseball. Like there's always something with minor league baseball. We brought it up before. And like you said, Savannah Bananas, there's entertainment for everyone. And then, also you've got a game. I had just since the 2022 USFL, I just have not seen a whole lot of that game atmosphere or, fan atmosphere at some of these games, because there's just not a lot to do there.
I know they couldn't, but even 14,000 at Audi Field would have looked tremendously different than 14. I mean, that's a completely different.
Yeah.
Like, and then that helps build, I think, excitement. I mean, I know we're talking not just a championship game, but, we've talked venues and all that. But yeah, I mean, having the right, but you see all the time, if they can only get this venue and this, like, yeah, I'm sure they're sitting there too. Like, well, if we can get this, I mean, you can't, we had one of the comments said that, they had talked with the people at the Roughnecks, and they know that, like, they're like, oh yeah, they know it's a problem.
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone on the ground does know it's a problem, but it's the same thing when you work at a corporation. I mean, Pam in accounting might know that there's a problem, but you need, Jenny, the CEO, to make that decision, or whoever. Like, that doesn't do any good that that the San Antonio people know, and marketing is rough in San Antonio. You need, but I don't. Anyway, continue, and I just because I don't know when they run out of Karen.
Yeah, and that's. We talked about, someone brought it up too, and it's a great idea, but that's the problem, is that you would want to have like the higher seeded team host a playoff or host a championship, but it's a venue problem. And that's one of the things that Russ Brandon said, that, they were trying to look at he talked about venue problems. And I don't know if it was city problems or if it was venue problems. But I think they want to be more involved and be a bigger star on a bigger platform in some of these communities. But you have to have availability. And I know, like this has happened a few times where, it happened with Michigan, like last year and this year, where even if they had won home field advantage, they wouldn't get to play. It happened with DC with, Audi Field this year. Because you're right. Like, it would have been incredible to see 14,000 people at Audi Field. I mean, it just would have been, it would have been something else. So they got to look at the venues, and as Russ Brandon said, everything's on the table. So I'm going to be interested in some of these off-season announcements, assuming they come.
So I'm watching my power wash just so everyone can see I'm not live. We've got years to build up out there. Yeah, Christopher here. We got Audi, original Audi Superior to Audi West. Yeah, so I like that they were calling Audi West. The St. Louis. So when Russ Brandon says that, right, everything is on the table. We're having leadership talks. We're having off-season talks. What does that look like? Or does that, I don't know, that doesn't fill me with a tremendous sense of enthusiasm that, like, I like that everything's on the table, but then that feels like nothing's on the table. And I don't know if registering new marks is the way. I found the one just so I can give credit here. But what the first comment was like, they have trademarks for everything. Like, so you can read into it, you can read not, but, it doesn't excite me to still have Russ and Daryl and them in charge of this. Like, I feel like I've seen what this is now.
Well, I would say that I don't mind them being in charge, but as you brought up earlier, they need to have somebody else has to be in that room. Somebody that can, as Max said, somebody that can knows how to bring fans. They need somebody in there who knows how to, like, fix these broadcasts, some of these broadcasts. So I think that, to me, I think they've got the football thing. They got the football thing down, because I don't think anybody can complain about, overall, like, what the football looked like, even from the first 3 weeks, but certainly after week 3, when, again, we talked about, I think some of the quarterback issues started to show in the first 3 weeks, and then everybody got on the same page. But you also can't go into it what we saw with the XFL, where they said, okay, we're going to have a team in Las Vegas, and then they worked backwards. You can't do that because it was a complete failure. You got to do it a much different way. And I think that's why they did the whole RFP process, was to say, okay, we're going to talk to these cities, make sure there's interest, make sure there's the right venue and the right situation and the right fan base. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here, Reed.
Well, no, and I completely agree. I mean, that is more how you have to do it. But again, it still feels like I am Reed and I am trying to get Sydney Sweeney to date me, or trying to get whoever to date me. I mean, it's still, and I'm a happily married man, but it still just feels like, we're the UFL. Like, would you like us to come? And I think the CFL would have a higher stance of saying, like, hey, we want to host a Grey Cup in, Tulsa, and really blow it out and bring a lot of people in, then get the tuners going or whatever. Like, I don't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what they're. We said this before. I just don't know what they're selling.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we have, like, it's been 30 years since the CFL's been here in America. Is that what we need? I know there was somebody who kept saying, like, well, the CFL and UFL need to merge, and then they could do that. And I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, you're right. Like, that's a great question. Where do you go from here? Again, on the positive side, the gameplay is good. The structure's already in place. But on the negative side, you've got to get more people involved, and you have to get eyeballs from casual fans. And I think there are a lot of us in this niche that are saying, like, well, we don't need the casual fans. This is for us. Well, that's not sustainable. I mean, it can be for us, but it's 600,000 people, watching. Network TV is not going to do. You can be on Evergreen TV and Right Now TV, like these arena football leagues are, or whatever. So, which would be fine, I guess. But, you got to lower your expectations after that.
It is wild. And I know it's different markets, but like the European League of Football, like has a TV network or has a deal and a YouTube deal and is adding teams and all this, and then the UFL. How would you grade this season of the UFL? Because we heard a lot of, well, we couldn't look through it year one because we merged so late and we didn't even know what we were doing. So now, we went through the whole year. How would you rate this?
Well, I'll grade on a curve because we saw, like you said, we saw what happened in year one, and and as I think it was Danny Garcia or Daryl Johnson, one of them said, like, it was kind of murky. We were still trying to figure it out. They got it off the ground. So, so to me, when I see season 2, I have to give it at least a B because everything, played out. They worked out the labor strife. They worked out that issue. We got good gameplay. They didn't put stuff on. They learned, don't put, games on FS1. And, I know there were some issues with weather and things like that. That was out of their control. The things I thought that were in their control, I thought they handled well. So to me, it's got to be at least a B.
I just don't know. And I was trying to kind of formulate the way around this. I think they did a good job, right? I would agree with you, and B, and that we accomplished this. But going back, and I'm just really trying to formulate my thoughts to kind of get out of this, is I'm just afraid that like the UFL is going to end up being like a Suits or something for like USA or one of these channels that's just on for like 15 years and then just doesn't. And then you're like, oh, I didn't realize like Suits was on. And then I'm just afraid that this is going to be on Friday nights on Fox for the next like 15 years. And they're going to go, well, it's cheaper than paying Gordon Ramsay another show. And we'll do this. That's my fear. And that's what I don't want. But given year 2 now, we have that. Do we just get a $400 super chat? Like, what's happening here, John?
I think it disappeared, though. Steven might have been kind of go for 4 there.
Well, maybe that's a mistake, but someone screenshot that. I'll take that. I'll take that into early retirement here.
You just broken Steven. I mean,
Yeah. What do they say? I know that Tulsa has a high. Yeah. So we went through kind of all of that. Do we want to do that? Do you want to do that really quick before we get out of here? All right. So vamp for a second and let me pull that up because that actually would be a good article to get into. This guy is killing me now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a talk. To me, I think if you don't have two new teams, at least this year, in which we talked about before, if you don't add some teams or try to fix the problems and you just go in status quo, I mean, that's when you start to get stagnant. And that's my concern, that they say the approach is almost too conservative. It's okay to shake things up, but I think there are some markets out there that this would work. And as Daryl Johnson said, it's like they trying to find out the disconnect between some of these markets. But yeah, I'd really like to see some change. They need change. And I don't know, it has to be radical change, but there needs to be some change. The football's good. They got to catch some attention.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. I realized I had muted that whole time there when I was looking up that article. But this is interesting on here. Mike just talked through kind of the top UFL markets per Fox Sports. So this is on that. Birmingham up here, and this is the share kind of in that market. So I would say that if it was New York or Seattle, that's you see here Dallas has a 3 share. So it's. Anyway, you see Birmingham at the top, New Orleans, St. Louis, no surprise in there. Tulsa, a lot of UFL.
You just completely ignored Louisville in there.
Louisville, notable. Well, what's your thoughts on this? Because at least this gives you the direction to go more than just like we own the trademark. But I still don't think that 0.8 in Louisville is a reason to put a team there. What's your thoughts?
Well, I would 100% disagree with that. No, I'm kidding. No, New Orleans still is the biggest surprise to me. It's like it's just crazy, but that the 2 markets that get over a 1 rating are Birmingham, which I guess people are watching on TV rather than going to the games, and New Orleans. Like I don't, I guess there had to have been some kind, when they started the USFL and they started with the New Orleans Breakers, I thought, okay, well, they did some homework here, and they know that New Orleans wanted football, because I think that was the original intent of the USFL. here are some teams we're going to sell these franchises off in the long term. But I mean, when you look at Memphis, it's like a 2 share is still not bad, but it's, you don't have people showing up, and you're still, even in the markets, you're still the lowest one. So, yeah, I mean, obviously no surprise with St. Louis there, but the New Orleans one just seems like such an outlier to me.
We had a lot of anti-Becht comments here, and I joked with you earlier.
Right.
Anthony Becht unfollowed me today, so either he's leaving the UFL or just my negative comments about St. Louis has finally gotten to him. But people don't seem too happy with Becht there. I know the problem, John, and we've talked this market share and everything else is.
Yeah.
These non-NFL markets, it's a reason why they're not there. And yeah, so you can draw a large percentage of the people there, but the overall number, it's still not this large mass of people that you're moving in there. Is that your similar thoughts?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, you're not going to have, Louisville and Tulsa and New Orleans probably in the league next year. But there's been some talk with Nashville, like there was, I wouldn't even say rumors, but discussion that maybe Memphis needs to go to Nashville. I don't know if that works or not. But yeah, you're right. It's just there's some outliers in there, but I don't think that necessarily means that they're outliers where they're going to put a team in there. I'd love to see it. I'd love to have season tickets to the Louisville whoever's.
Max here had I think it was a D plus for the I was just seeing some ratings in here. D plus. Jenna has a B minus. Max here, how can you drum up excitement when you can't expand, let the fans be involved? Yeah, to me, the hardest part of all that is going into the next season and just, I just don't know what the talking point is now that we've moved past the merger and now that we've moved past the Rock and all that.
Well, I feel like if you don't expand and it's the same 8 teams, I think you roll the dice. You're running a real risk of losing your core fandom too, because I think there are a lot of core fans who would say like, you're just going to do this again. I'm not going to be that interested. And that's a worry to me, because that's the end of the league when you start to lose the core, because you have to build from the core and then go out to the casuals. And when you start to lose this, that's it.
Yeah. They had the comment here at Abdul kind of better than what I had said. I don't think these shares are big enough to actually expand. Yeah. These markets are so small. You're getting the small share in the smaller market, but that's how you're going to kind of gauge the fan. I think that's how people are they take that information. They're going to use that to look forward.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you get a 1.5 share in a top 10 market. That you're talking numbers, but you're right. Yeah, these when you start to look at the Nielsen markets, like for instance, Louisville is 48, 49. It's that's a difference. So Birmingham is probably in that area as well. So these are now New Orleans, I think is maybe 51. So you're looking at, these mid-sized markets that are not necessarily, the ratings are good, but overall numbers, when you see them, if you put shares to actual population, that's a different story.
I still just see so many anti-Becht comments here. I mean, it's really just crazy that way.
Well, that's fine if you want to get rid of Becht, but who's your upgrade? It's, I mean, I'd say that from high school to college to any pro level. Like, if you want to fire your coach, that's fine, but who's your replacement that's going to be better? That's going to do what he's done. I mean, I'm not trying to defend Becht. He can do that himself, but to me, like, there are a lot of coaches in this league that that you might be able to improve on. I don't know if there's one for Anthony Becht. I think there's a lot of frustration. I get that. But I don't know that how I don't know like how you're going to improve on him. Not to say there aren't great coaches out there, but I just can't see it.
And Andy had a funny kind. It's all fun and games firing the coach until you win 2 games the next season. But if it was me and I had to sell this league and you got rid of, I don't know, a couple coaches and try to bring in someone that's got some college, cachet in those markets, or I mean, I can't, I'm not smart enough with the college football, off the top of my head, but I just can't think of any other way you kind of get people to go out unless you do with like Zorn and all that with the Sea Dragon or with the Dragons. Well, I think you got to have maybe that connection then.
Yeah, but the problem is with that, as you know, like there's a reason Reggie Barlow went to Tennessee State. He's probably going to make 30 times what he was making, as a head coach in the UFL. So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to spend some money to get some of that. I mean, and it's not like Tennessee State's Alabama. I mean, it's so there's a lot of money in college coaching right now. And I don't know if the UFL, even with just 8 teams, is going to try to keep up with those coaches' salaries like that, because there are a lot of good coaches like Peyton Pardee. You can say whatever you want to about him. That guy is going to be a head coach somewhere on a big level. He's a young dude. They didn't have a lot of success, but you look at his journey just this season, what he had to go through and what he did. It's like, man, he had those guys playing when there was nothing to play for. And he's a young dude. So, yeah, is he going to stay in the UFL? I mean, he might next season. He might be a head coach next season somewhere. So you've got to spend some money if they want to keep guys and get guys like that.
What do you think they're going to do with the defenders here? Do you think they're going to just have to rebuild or open up the pocketbook? I mean, that to me, shit. You have imagine now if Shannon Harris goes, it makes it worse now that they won the championship.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's funny.
Or do you say, "Oh, look, he got this big promotion because look, it could even happen to you. You could win." I mean, right?
Yeah, you're right, because you look at the optics that were bad because Reggie Barlow left before the season, and now with that same team, like the interim coach, who all the players said, "Well, we want to take that interim tag off," but it's like, well, how much is he going to make? Will he follow, Reggie Barlow, or will he come back and add like more to this, to his coaching resume? Like, what's going to be better for him? I don't know. I would love to talk to somebody in the coaching community to see what they really think about if someone like Shannon Harris, who like obviously should have been coach of the year. There's no question about that. And he won coach of the year. So it's like, does that increase his resume to stay there and try to repeat on that? Or does he go to Tennessee State and, whatever position coach or a coordinator that he is there? So, I don't know, but you're right. That's going to be kind of he's got some decisions to make, and what DC could be a total rebuild. And that would be tough for that team to have to bring in a whole new staff. And then you got to wonder too, how many of those players, like a Jordan Ta'amu, does he want to play for for a third coach? I don't know if he does.
He's kind of holding the cards. I mean, I kind of like that. I like that. But Max had a thing here. There's no way that she can get paid more to be than the head coach in the pro league. Well, but is UFL going to outpay that? Is that right? Is that your question?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Will he? I don't know what the salary structure is. I mean, I know what Barlow, I mean, that was a pretty big pay raise for him to be head coach there. And that's a school who's actually financially struggling right now. And he knew it going in. So I don't know what the staff pay is like, but and so you got to understand, like, are you going to compare that to the UFL structure? Like, what's that going to look like? And as we talked about before, also, what does it mean for, when you're talking about a coaching resume and trying to enhance that and move up?
Anything else we want to talk about here? We got just a couple minutes left. Anything else?
I just want to say that one of the reasons that I got into YouTube was because of you, and because I'd watch you a lot and you did a lot of, interviews and everything else. And you were like one of the reasons and you were super supportive of me, like starting out. And in fact, you were on the first episode that I did, which, by the way, I think still has like 20,000 views. And I thought, like, okay, I'm about to blow YouTube up. It didn't really kind of sustain that way.
It never does. They give you the one.
But you were like one of the like kind of champions in my corner, and you were always helped. You always gave me good advice, and we got to be friends over this. That was in December of, I think, 2023 or 2023, I guess. So, or maybe even 2022. It's been a few years.
It was definitely back. The 22 was when that was when the Andy Murray kind of joined the Worlds and you, and kind of that was really when we kind of, I think, just a lot more people got into the space with the I mean, the USFL bump of 22 was, I think, the biggest
100%
we've ever had since.
Yeah, and it was fun to do, and I just continued to do it, and I just, I always appreciate your support, and certainly appreciate your friendship, and I'll never publish the text that we my promise to you is I'll never publish the text that we send to each other.
That's good. No, well, no, I appreciate it. And it's just, yeah, I'm burnt out. John probably knows that, and the people. And at least it made a lot of sense at the beginning of the CFL season coming out here, and the fact that we're not going to be here for Grey Cup and we're not going to go do that. That made a lot of sense, and that made that decision easy. And this summer is terrible for me, and it's not fair to the people listening to the show to expect us to have, full you're watching, or, to expect me to have a full rewatch or be informed and talk. Like, it's just kind of getting to the point where it's not fair. And I never want to be like the Stephen A. Smith playing, not that to that level, but like the playing solitaire at the game, and like not, it's really hard to talk about this stuff when you're not fully abreast. And I feel like I've kind of cheated my way through that the last year or so, just kind of trying to rely on Jason Hussey a lot last year with the CFL, and then you and everything with the UFL right now. So it's just gotten to a point where I don't think it's fair to the fans and everything else. So yeah, people are like, oh, it's just the last, like, yes, that's what it said the last episode. But Philip's like, what's happening here? But anyway, so I think we'll see. I mean, if they come out tomorrow and say the league's going away, but I just don't want there to be that expectation that we're coming back on. So John will continue to do a lot of stuff on his channel. And like I said off the top, but we'll promote kind of anyone else new with that. But it's just not fair to the people. And I don't have the time to do 6 interview, 2.5-hour shows anymore. Yeah. Like it was fun. I mean, it was a really fun time, and that was it.
Well, again, I appreciate everything that you've done, and you introduced me to this whole YouTube world, and yep. And we just have to say, yep, salute to you, man. It's been fun, and I appreciate you this whole season, like having me on, and we got to talk UFL, online and offline. So I appreciate that. It really was fun.
Yes, as everyone's saying goodbye, as the pressure washer is here. But I will say, so I've left everyone, if you've made it to this point, I've left everyone a little bonus present here, a parting gift. John knows about this last week, and we could change this, but this is just the gift that is always going to give. And so as we know, the UFL, United Football League, doesn't own UFL.com. I think it's a shipping line, right? It's like United Freight Line. And they also don't so their website is theufl.com. So I have purchased UFLfootball.com. And if you go type that in right now, I left you a little present. So if anyone ever wants to get a hold of that, but maybe we'll change that. Maybe we'll do other stuff with it. But John, I really appreciate it. We'll still talk. And like I said, if anyone ever wants me to come on or anything, if anyone, and you might say, Reed, we don't want to ever see you again. And that's great too. But I'll still be, I just don't want the pressure of doing this. But
no, you will definitely be on my, when you're available, I will definitely have you on.
And don't, what was I going to say too? StreamYard definitely already charged me. I think it was yesterday for this month. So I'm so glad. I'm like, damn it, we couldn't even get through one more episode on the StreamYard account. But anyway, really appreciate it. Go check out John's channel. We'll see everyone. Be nice, and like online and stuff, and just be nice to people. All right. We'll see you guys. How do I get out of here? All right. Bye.